Hi, I'm Betsy Ann Wilson, the Executive Director of NPC Friends and Family. We're the nonprofit foundation that supports the students of Northland Pioneer College primarily through providing scholarships each semester. And most of these scholarships are at least partly based on need. So the purpose of this class day today is to talk to you about how to apply for these scholarships and also how to prepare a really competitive scholarship essay so that you can be the one who receives the scholarship. So first of all, why is it important to apply for scholarships? Well, we see a lot in the news media, especially today, about students who are graduating from four-year institutions with a bachelor's degree, and they have literally tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Loaning institutions make it awfully easy for students like you to apply for loans and receive them. And the sort of the bait is that you don't have to pay that loan off until you graduate and get your degree. And the sad thing is, when money isn't real, they're just depositing it to your student account. What can happen is you don't really realize how much it's stacking up, and students are taking out loans, to live on and to not just to pay tuition and books and fees, but to live on. And I just really caution you against that. And I want to talk to you about other ways to make college affordable, including scholarships. The first one of those paths that you can take, you're already on if you're a student at Northland Pioneer College. Community colleges are an outstanding way to not only save money on a bachelor's degree, but also to get a great quality of education. So the first couple of years of a bachelor's degree are going to be the same classes. You have to take the same classes whether you're going to NPC or University of Arizona or ASU or NAU. And the beauty of it is the state colleges, the state community colleges in Arizona have articulation agreements with the state universities so that the universities will accept the credits as long as you select the right classes and you work with your academic advisor to be sure that you do that. They'll accept those credits for transfer so that you can complete an associate degree at Northland Pioneer College, transfer to a state university, and you're a junior. You're not going in as a freshman, you're going through halfway through your baccalaureate degree. Now, you've not only saved a ton of money because tuition at Northland Pioneer College is a fraction of what it is at a state university, but I would posit that you're getting a much better quality of education. Many of the entry-level freshman and sophomore classes at the universities are full of students, sometimes hundreds of students in one class, because everybody has to take the same class. And you don't get the kind of individualized attention that you get at a community college. Moreover, I would say that, at least I know that our Northland Pioneer College instructors really care about whether or not you get your class completed and whether or not you do well in the class. And I think community college instructors are much more nurturing as educators just because of the setting of the community college and the goals of the community college. So you can get an outstanding first 2 years of your four-year degree at a community college at a great savings in cost and also at a great quality of education. Another thing I want you to consider is, and I'm going to talk about this further in the presentation, if you have not done so, you need to complete your FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, online. You can do that as early as October 1st each year for funding for the following year. So here's a word about financial aid and scholarships. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, qualifies you if you qualify for something called the federal Pell Grant. And that is not a loan. That's not money you have to pay back. That's a grant to help you go to school. And so it's very much in your best interest to apply for it. And it's also required for most scholarships, not just mine, not just NPC Friends and Family, but when you're applying for scholarships, scholarship funders want to know what it's called your estimated family contribution, and it's a formula generated number based on your individual situation, your individual income, the number of dependents that you have. It's based on the information you put in your FAFSA, and EFC stands for Estimated Family Contribution. That's just it's not going to disqualify you necessarily from getting a scholarship, or it's really the way that the scholarship funders have of measuring everybody by the same standard. If you all do the FAFSA is individualized, and that gives them the best idea about your individual situation. So by October 1st every year, you can complete your FAFSA starting October 1st for the following academic year. And scholarships are much the same way. You typically cannot wait until you're enrolled in classes in, say, the fall semester and then go, hey, I need a scholarship, because they've all been awarded for that semester. So typically scholarships are awarded in the semester prior to when they're used, or even the year prior to when they're used. NPC Friends and Family opens its scholarship application window for the spring semester on October 1st every year and closes it approximately 6 weeks later in the middle of November. We do this so that you can know if you're going to receive a scholarship award prior to registration for the spring semester, and that can help you with decision making about what kinds of courses that you can take and how much money you have to put towards them. Likewise, we open our scholarship application window for the spring semester every year on March 1st and close it approximately 6 weeks later in mid-April. It varies from year to year, but we always publish the deadline closing date. So think about scholarships and think about financial aid proactively and about applying for it before you need it. And you want to do these things so that you can fund your college education without going into debt. So without further ado, we're going to talk about the content of the class. In addition to that, we're going to cover this idea of where scholarships come from and explain why it's important for you to know that as an applicant. And we're going to talk about how to write a basic 500-word scholarship essay. That's what NPC Friends and Family scholarships require, is a 500-word essay. And so I'm going to break that down into 4 individual paragraphs and tie into those paragraphs what scholarship funders want to see of applicants and to help you make a really strong essay. We're going to talk about some tips for really helping your application and essay stand out. And we're going to talk about how to do a scholarship search. We're going to go into scholarships for the 2023 spring semester. And obviously this is a recorded session, so we're not going to do questions and answers, but I'm going to tell you how to get answers to your questions. So where do scholarships come from? One of the misconceptions about scholarships is that they come from the government. The federal Pell Grant that you get if you apply for and qualify with the FAFSA, that's a grant that comes from the federal government and you don't have to pay it back. But most scholarships come from donations by philanthropic individuals. NPC Friends and Family receives donations. We also do events to raise funds, so we work to raise scholarships. And one thing I thought was really cool when I started teaching this class and started managing this foundation is that I learned a really interesting fact, and that's that upwards of 80% of charitable giving in the United States comes from middle income people. So it doesn't come, we think of people like Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey and Jeff Bezos and these uber rich people that they do donate millions of dollars, but most of the charitable giving actually comes from average citizens, which I think is kind of a cool thing. So why is this important to know? Well, when you apply for a scholarship, you need to consider that a philanthropist is just a person who donates something of their time, their money, their talent to make the world a better place. And so if somebody's donating money to a scholarship, they probably care a lot about education and they want to see students succeed. And so when you are appealing to somebody like that, you want to think of it, as we always do in writing, you want to think of your audience and that you're trying to make an impression on someone who really cares about your well-being as a student, but also someone that wants to see you succeed, that thinks you are a good candidate. And so who's going to select you as the awardee? If you apply for a scholarship, many people think that the philanthropist, the person who donated money, is going to select the recipient. And in most cases, that's not true. In the case of NPC Friends and Family, I convene review committees to read and score scholarship applications, much as you would read and score an English essay. And these committees may consist of people on my NPC Friends and Family board. We're a nonprofit foundation, so I have a board of directors. They might be NPC faculty and staff and administration have all served on scholarship review committees. And so why is it important to know this? Well, they're representing the interests of those philanthropists who donated the money. And so they want to select the student or students who are the best investment if you will, for that donor, the person who's the most likely to succeed in what they started. Now, I will also tell you that you do not have to be a 4.0 student. You don't have to be the class valedictorian to get a scholarship. You have to have a commitment and a passion for what you're studying. You have to come across in your writing conveying that commitment and that passion and dedication, and you have to come across as a resourceful person that's in all likelihood going to finish their college degree. That's the kind of person that review committees are looking for. So how in the heck do you do that? Because in all likelihood you're never going to meet these people, so the impression that you make with them has to be on paper. The best way that I've ever seen this done by students who are successful in receiving scholarships is tell a story about yourself. So the first paragraph of your 500-word essay should introduce this audience of people, this review committee, to who you are as a person and what you're passionate about. Do not begin this paragraph by saying, my name is Betsy Wilson and I'm going to Northland Pioneer College because I want to become a nurse. That's how a lot of students who have not taken this class or learned how to write scholarship essays begin. And that's really boring because everybody wants to do it that way. We tend to say, well, I just need to introduce myself. It doesn't make you stand out. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And if you've seen this class before, I tend to use the same 4 or 5 examples because they're outstanding and they worked for these students. And there's a couple of reasons that I like to use them. So in the first one, back when I first kind of started NPC Friends and Family, we didn't get very many scholarship applications at all. And we had a review committee that would meet as a group, and they would actually read each application aloud. They would read each essay and they would discuss it and they would score it as a group. And I served as an ad hoc member of that committee. And by the way, I don't have anything to do with selecting scholarship recipients. That's why I'm trying to teach you how to do the best job of applying for a scholarship so that you're successful. And so I observed this committee going through the stack of scholarship applications. And one of them came from a student who was going to apply for a scholarship to get into our fire science program. And she began her scholarship essay by saying, when I was growing up in this small town in southern Arizona, all the kids wanted to be 16 so they could get their driver's licenses. I wanted to be 16 so I could become a junior wildland firefighter. And she talked about how her grandfather had actually founded the fire department in the town where she lived, and her father was a firefighter, so she wanted to follow in their footsteps. And so she became 16, and she talked about going out on her very first wildland fire. And she described driving down this dirt road and rolling grassland, and the fire was burning perpendicular to the road, and all the other fire trucks were behind the truck that she was in, sitting between her grandfather and her dad, and you could sort of feel her pride in that. And as they drove on down the road, she said, I could start to smell the fire. And we couldn't go very fast because it was a rough dirt road. And then after a while, I began to hear the fire. And we drove a little further, and the fire was roaring. It almost sounded like a train. And all of a sudden, my grandfather stopped the truck in the middle of the road, and he turned to me and he said, we cannot outrun this fire. So we're going to get out of the truck and crawl underneath it. We're going to pull our turnouts over our faces, and the fire is going to burn across the road ahead of us, and then we're going to flank it and fight it. And her next sentence said, I was scared to death. And at that point, that scholarship review committee, I believe, had already awarded that young woman the scholarship. They didn't even have to go to the other 3 paragraphs. They did, but she had so compelled them, not by her interest in firefighting, but by her passion for it. That was going to be her life's work. She wanted to do that more than anything, and it really came through in that just beautifully written, very simple first paragraph. The second example I want to give you illustrates a couple of points I want to make, and one of them is that scholarships don't necessarily go to the people with the great grades and the great life story. So this was a few years back. A young man gave me a scholarship essay that he wanted me to review before he submitted the scholarship application, and I will do that for you. If you would like to have me review and edit your essay before the scholarship application is submitted, I'll be happy to do that, as long as you don't wait until the scholarship deadline to ask me. So anyway, he sent me this essay, and I started reading it, and it began by saying, when I was in high school, I ruined my life. At the age of 17, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I really just wanted to hang out with my friends who were drunk and stoned. And I dropped out of school, and I'm reading this going, this is a scholarship essay? And then I kept reading, and the light went on. So he went on to say, I had pretty much hit rock bottom, and one day my uncle came to the house, and I was stoned and just kind of wasted, and he sat with me for a while, and he wasn't judgmental, and he just finally said, you know, our family's working on a building project for one of your female relatives, and I want you to be part of that. And we're going to meet tomorrow at this place at this time, and I want you to be there. And he said, to this day, I don't know why I went. Mainly, I think it was just my last opportunity to connect with my family, but I did go. Flash forward about 3 years, and he said, I discovered through that process that I really enjoyed working with my hands. I liked the precision of measuring and cutting and following a set of plans and working with tools. I have been clean and sober for 31 months. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous weekly. I've gotten my GED, and he was applying for a scholarship to enter our construction technology program. And by the way, yes, he did win that scholarship. So those are two examples of students who didn't begin the first paragraph by just giving their name and what they wanted to study. They told a story that let themselves as people come through. And when you do that, you don't necessarily have to have even as compelling a story as that. But when you tell a story about yourself versus just introducing yourself, you allow those people to make a little connection with you. So if you think about reading a novel and an author who really introduces his characters and describes them in such a way as you kind of feel like you know them and you kind of like them or even dislike them based on what the author wants, that's what you want to do with this first paragraph. You want to introduce yourself in a way that helps that scholarship review committee that you're never going to meet feel a personal connection to you. So now you go to the second paragraph, and this is where you now talk about your education. So you've talked about your passion and your dream. How in the world are you going to get there? The key to this paragraph, is that you need to talk about your education in detail. You need to provide enough detail in this paragraph that the scholarship review committee understands exactly where you're going. And here's why. A lot of times, especially students who have just started college, don't really understand how many classes they need to take, how long it's going to take them. If they want to become a doctor, that's going to require beyond a bachelor's degree, obviously. And so the scholarship review committee needs to see that you understand that you can chew what you've bitten off. So how do you do that in this paragraph? Describe your degree plan. And if you don't know what your degree plan looks like, it's time to meet with your academic advisor and make a degree plan. And then describe it in enough detail in this paragraph that the scholarship review committee understands that you know where you're going. So for example, an associate degree is approximately 64 credit hours. How many credit hours is your associate degree? How many credit hours have you taken thus far? And how many do you have left to take? And when do you think you will graduate? And this is sort of also germane to how many classes you can take per semester, because everybody's situation is different. Some of us go full-time, which is 12 or more credit hours per semester. Some people work and have family and other commitments, and they maybe take care of elder family members. And so they can only take maybe 6 or 9 credit hours per semester. So talk about that. How long is it going to take you to finish your degree? And then if you're going to do something beyond Northland Pioneer College, what is that? So what's your end game? So if you finish your associate degree in next May, what are you going to do after that? So that they have a really clear understanding of how your passion that you talked about in the first paragraph ties to the practicality of the education that's going to help you achieve that. So now you have 2 paragraphs. You've talked about yourself and your passion in such a way that you've hooked and held that audience. And then you've talked about your education in such a way that they understand that you know where you're going. This is where, in the 3rd paragraph, we need to talk about what kind of a resourceful person you are. A resourceful person is someone who looks for ways to get it done, and they use all the resources available to them, and make it happen. So what are some things that make you a resourceful person? Well, one of the things that I'm really going to espouse is it's okay to work while you're going to college. I hear from a lot of students, especially younger students, they say, I don't want to work while I'm going to college. I want to focus on my grades. Well, if you are independently wealthy or your parents are independently wealthy, you can probably do that. But it's really important that you work for another reason. And that is so that when you finish your degree, you know how to work. Believe it or not, there are people who finish 4-year degrees, bachelor's degrees, and they've never held a job. I don't mean that they've never held a job in their field that they got their bachelor's degree in. I mean, they've never waited tables, they've never bagged groceries, they've never babysat kids, they've never worked a construction labor job, something like that. Working, it shows a scholarship review committee that you have some skin in the game, that you're funding your education partly, or you're funding your life through working, and also that you are able to balance that school life work balance. That's a resourceful person. Other things that you can talk about that make you resourceful: have you belonged to clubs in school? Have you been part of student government? Have you played on a sports team? Because again, those all show that work-life balance, that demonstrate that you are probably going to be able to complete this journey that you've started in education, and that you have the means to do that. Remember that most scholarships nowadays are not what we call a quote unquote full ride scholarship. If you're writing for a scholarship that's for $500 or $1,000 or maybe even just $2,000, that's still not going to fund your education. So the Scholarship Review Committee wants to understand how you're doing it without the scholarship. So what are you doing for income? What are you doing for livelihood? How are you paying for your education and to live without the scholarship? And if you don't tell them that, then they're going to think you're hoping for their $500 scholarship to save your life, to get you through college. And no matter how much they loved you in that first paragraph, and no matter how much they see your educational vision in the second paragraph, if you don't tell them that in this paragraph, they're going to think that maybe you're not going to finish what you started, because you have to show that you have the means to do so. So that makes the last paragraph a little bit almost counterintuitive, but this is where you have to sum it all up. And now you have told them what you're passionate about, how you're going to go about getting there with your education, all the resources that you have to make it happen. This is where you need to tell them why you need the scholarship, and be specific. Say, if I am awarded the scholarship, I will use it for, and then tell them exactly what you're going to use it for. If you have a federal Pell Grant, or savings, or help from your family, or all of the above to pay for your tuition, maybe you're going to use your scholarship to pay for books and course fees and supplies. If you have those things covered by other means, maybe you're going to use your scholarship for gas money. Northland Pioneer College has a service area that covers 21,000 square miles. So all of Navajo and Apache counties. We have 9 different locations. So we have students that, believe it or not, you might be one of them, drive upwards of 1,000 miles a week to go to school. And so gas money is a very valid expense. So is childcare. If you have to put your kids in daycare, you could say, I'm going to use the scholarship to help me pay for daycare. I'm going to use it to offset the money that I'm not bringing in income because I'm going to school and working part-time. So talk about exactly how you're going to use the scholarship if you are awarded. And then you need to finish this beautiful essay by thanking the Scholarship Review Committee for considering your application. And that's just a good way to leave people with a good feeling about you. So there's your 4-paragraph essay. In the first paragraph, you've hooked and held that audience with a compelling story about yourself. In the second paragraph, you've explained your college degree program in such a way that they understand that you know where you're going and how long it's going to take to get there. In the third paragraph, you talk about all the resources that you have, whether monetary or personality traits, all the things that make you a resourceful person and a good candidate for the scholarship. And then in the 4th paragraph, you sum it up and say, this is exactly what I need the scholarship for, and thank you for considering me. So now let's talk about just a few tips for making your essay and application stand out. First of all, if you're applying for a scholarship that requires letters of recommendation, ask for them right away. Don't wait until the scholarship deadline is a week away to ask your recommenders to write for you. They should be on letterhead. They should provide the name and address and contact information of the recommender. And you should be asking for letters of recommendation from people for whom you have worked, or maybe for college professors, or maybe for academic advisors, people that can attest to your ability to be a good student and to finish what you started. You should not send letters of recommendation from people who are personal friends or from family members, because we would expect them to say good things about you. We want to know who you are in the eyes of people for whom you have worked or who have taught you or things like that. So request those right away, and if you will, get your scholarship recommenders a copy of your essay, and then they can reinforce what you said in the essay when they write their letter of recommendation. I just explained to you how to do an essay for an NPC Friends and Family Scholarship, but typically personal essays follow that same general line of thought. But if you have an essay prompt, for example, you're told to write an essay about a challenge that you faced in life, then by all means stick to that topic. But remember that you are trying to convey what a capable, resourceful person you are, and that you do have a vision and a means of getting there. So help your scholarship reviewers sort of read between the lines, no matter what the essay prompt. Do not send a scholarship application in on the deadline date. Too many things can happen. I will not accept late applications for any reason. And you can be sitting there thinking, boy, that's really mean. But let me tell you what I think is really mean. What if you go to submit your application on the deadline date and your computer crashes, and you cry and whine and you call me, and then you say you try to send it in late, and it comes in 5 minutes after the deadline? Well, I told you that we open scholarships for the spring semester in October 1st of every year, and they're open for 6 weeks. And for the fall semester, we open them on March 1st of every year, and they're open for 6 weeks. You have 6 weeks to get that application in. If you waited until the last day and all this stuff happened, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to try again the following semester, because it's not fair for me to allow your scholarship application to be considered for funding, and maybe you win the scholarship over someone who got theirs in well in advance of the deadline date. So no late applications for any reason. Follow the instructions. If it says to submit a single PDF document, submit a single PDF document. Don't send 5 different attachments. Never exceed the word count on an essay. Our essays for NPC Friends and Family are 500 words. Do not exceed that, because it gives you a reason to be disqualified. So be sure that you use whatever software you're using to write your scholarship essay. Be sure that you're following that word count. And do not apply for scholarships for which you do not meet the criteria. Don't apply for scholarships that you're not eligible for. Read the instructions carefully, because that's another way of demonstrating that you're a resourceful person. Okay, especially given the fact that you're never going to meet the scholarship review committee, people feel awkward a lot of times about letting their passions come through, letting their personalities come through. You have to do that. Let yourself come through in your essay, because this is likely the only opportunity that you're going to have to make a good impression and connect with people through writing. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay, build on your accomplishments. A lot of times scholarship applications have a cover letter that has you fill in the blanks. Did you belong to any student organizations? Were you in student government? Did you play on any sports teams? Instead of just repeating, when you get to that 3rd paragraph and you're talking about how resourceful you are, don't just say, I was a member of student government. Say rather, when I was a member of student government in my senior year of high school, we had a canned food drive and brought in over 1,100 pounds of food for the people in our communities. So you're not just stating, I accomplished this, you're building on it. Why was it important that you did that? How was that important? This is one of the biggest ways I see students lose scholarships. I would, if I were teaching this class live, I would ask you guys, what's a sob story? Or if you will, what's the purpose of telling a sob story? And invariably, you all know what a sob story is. It's to make people feel sorry for you. And I guarantee you, I have seen some essays where I really felt sorry for that student. but they were not successful in winning a scholarship. Why? Well, here's a couple things to consider. When I was growing up, my best friend's mom used to listen to my friend and I whining around about something, and she would say, "Do you want your problems or do you want somebody else's? Because I guarantee you, I can find somebody else who will trade places with you." You never know who's on that review committee and what their life experiences have been. So don't appeal to their sympathies, because they may have gone through something far worse than you, and by golly, they're still standing. The other thing to remember is that if you are speaking from the perspective of sympathy, you're speaking from the choice of victimhood, and victims are not resourceful people. Scholarships go to resourceful people. That being said, everybody has a life story, and some people have had terrible things happen to them in their lives, or they've made really terrible choices, but they don't talk about it from the victim standpoint. Consider the example I gave you at the beginning of the class of the young man who began his essay by saying, "When I was 17 years old, I ruined my life. I was an alcoholic and a drug addict." That could have been written as a sob story. It was not. That was a story of triumph over adversity. That was a story of personal empowerment. That's why that young man won the scholarship, because he said, "Here's where I was, and here's where I am, and here's where I'm going." It was compelling. A lot of times we have students in our nursing and allied health programs that begin scholarship essays by talking about a time when either they themselves or maybe a loved one went through some catastrophic illness or injury, or maybe the loved one even passed away. And the scholarship applicant was so inspired by the healthcare providers that saw them or their loved ones through that ordeal, that's why they chose to enter healthcare. That's not a sob story. That's explaining what in their life story brought them to where they are today. So that's okay. Just don't write from a standpoint of wanting to get sympathy, because it will backfire on you. Okay, we all know that you have to edit your paper for grammatical correctness, for punctuation, for spelling. When you turn in a paper that's clean and free of errors, you're showing that you're resourceful. You're showing that you care about the quality of the product that you submitted. There's another way to use editors. When you finish your scholarship essay and you have it in what you think is your final draft form, select a couple of friends or relatives or people who are close to you who will tell you the straight, and say, "When you read my scholarship essay, would you award me the scholarship? Why or why not?" And listen to what they have to say. When we are writers, we are close to our topics, right? And everybody ought to know themselves pretty well. We're close to ourselves. So a lot of times we think that we have conveyed something in such a way that maybe we haven't, or we've come across in such a way that maybe we haven't. So your trusted editor may read your essay and say, "I don't think that you really said enough about yourself. I don't," maybe they may give you an example of something that you didn't mention sometime when you did something really special, and you should have talked about that in that third paragraph about your resourcefulness. Conversely, they may also say, "I think you sound a little big-headed. I'm a little taken aback. I think you need to kind of pull your horns in a little bit and come across as being a little more humble." So a few trusted editors that can read not just for quality, but for content will really help you stand out. And then finally, yes, always tell the truth. If you didn't do it, don't say you did. And if you did do it, don't say you didn't. Okay, now I want to talk to you about scholarship searches. So NPC Friends and Family has a number of scholarships every year, and we list them at npc.edu/scholarships here. And you can go to this link and actually type in the words. I'm going to get this blown up for you. NPC Friends and Family. Look, there it is. And you'll see all the scholarships that we have available. So I'm recording this today in late September. We're going to open our scholarship application window October 1st. So these are going to say currently closed, and they're going to close. The deadline is going to be Thursday, November 17th. But you can click on these, and they will give you all the information that you need to apply. And they'll also give you the eligibility criteria. So who's eligible to apply for the Charles Lazitsky Scholarship? Here's the eligibility criteria. Remember, you don't want to apply for anything that you don't qualify for. And then it tells you how to apply, so the documents that you're going to need. And the really cool thing for the upcoming semester is that you can submit one scholarship application. It has to be for a scholarship for which you are qualified. And you're going to go to this bar that right now says stop currently closed. That's going to say apply here. You're going to click on this bar, and that's going to be the online application form. You're going to answer some questions, and then you're going to upload your application documents, including your essay that we just talked about, demonstration of your financial aid status. And this is either going to be a financial aid award letter or a denial letter, or page one only, not the whole thing, page one only, of your student aid report, which you got when you submitted your FAFSA, that shows your estimated family contribution, or EFC. And then you're going to need a copy of your unofficial transcript, which indicates your degree intent. You're going to upload those documents to your online application form. And if you apply for one NPC Friends and Family Scholarship out of all of this list, and you are qualified, you meet the criteria, you are going to be placed into consideration for all the NPC Friends and Family Scholarships for which you qualify. You will not have to submit an application for each one. If you've applied for scholarships from me before, this is a change. It's hopefully a really positive change for the better, and I hope this is really helpful to you. I also want you to notice that when you click on these, if you missed something in this presentation, you're going to find a recording of it right here. And you can also find a written tutorial right here on all of these scholarship application web sites. You can click here for tips on writing your scholarship essay, and you'll get a written document. You can click here and you'll get to see this video again. So those can be helpful for you as well. And remember that these are tips for applying for NPC Friends and Family Scholarships. There are numerous scholarships out there that you can apply for, not just to go to NPC, but if you're going on to one of the state universities, or if you're going out of state. npc.edu/scholarships maintains this search engine that includes a lot of scholarships that aren't just limited to NPC. I also want you to consider the Arizona Community Foundation. So this link here will take you to their website. The Arizona Community Foundation is essentially a foundation that manages foundations. So they have like 80 or 100 NPC Friends and Families that they manage. And if you go onto their website and fill out a single application and upload your documents, they will match you to the scholarships that they have available. Most of them are limited to Arizona schools, but not all. And so this is a tremendous resource. It does not take the place of doing your own scholarship search. So let's talk about that for a minute. If you go on npc.edu/scholarships, you'll notice that the scholarship application opportunities are arranged alphabetically. And boy, howdy, there's a whole bunch of them. And a lot of them you're not going to qualify for. But you're going to go through here and you're going to find something and you're going to go, oh, hey, I qualify for this one from the Arizona National Livestock Show. You're going to click on it, learn about it, and go, yeah, I qualify for that. And you're going to apply for it. And the best way to do a scholarship search and apply for scholarships is to just do it. Just get those applications out there. So you're sitting here thinking that's going to take a lot of time. And you're right, it's going to take a lot of time. But let me ask you this. If you leave this class today and you write this award-winning scholarship essay and you find a half a dozen scholarships that you meet the criteria for, and you apply for all of them, and you definitely apply for the NPC Friends and Family ones to go to Northland Pioneer College, and you wait around for a couple months, and then lo and behold, one day in the mail, you get an award letter. And you go, wow, it took me 4 hours to write that essay and to apply for all those scholarships and get all those applications out. It took me 4 hours. You got an award letter and it says, congratulations, you just won a scholarship for $1,000. Took you 4 hours. Do the math and tell me how much money you just earned per hour. And you should have gotten $250. And that's more money than I'll ever make. So scholarship searches and the application process is very much worth your time. It's gonna help you get through school. It's gonna make it possible for you, and it's gonna keep you out of debt. And please do not forget your FAFSA. To complete your FAFSA after October 1st for the following academic year. If you have any questions, or if you'd like me to read your scholarship essay, You can reach me at betsy.wilson@mpc.edu, and this is my phone number, 928-536-6245. I prefer that you send your drafts at least 2 weeks in advance of the deadline so I have time to get your essay draft back to you. And I also prefer that you send it as a Word document so that I can edit it using Word software and show you where I made suggested changes. So this concludes my presentation. I want to thank you for listening today, and I hope it's been helpful. I wish you all the luck in the world, and I hope that you will use scholarships and financial aid to fund your education to great effect. And best wishes to all of you as you continue your educational journey at Northland Pioneer College. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, betsy.wilson@npc.edu, if you have any questions or you would like some help editing your essay. Have a great day.